I've been telling you guys this was coming and now it's happening. Right now, this week, the conversation has changed. It started when Donald Trump started talking about a third term again, which, by the way, I am appalled at how many on the left took the bait. Because Trump throws out the absolutely rancid trash idea of a third term when he finds himself needing either a distraction from a failure or from a reality unfolding that he simply cannot allow to be true. But when the left immediately takes his bait and starts panicking about a third term, we are doing his work for him when instead we need to be looking in the exact opposite direction. Because that's where the thing is from which he is trying to distract us. So what's the thing? Is it because he's trying to hide from the crushing increases in healthcare costs? Is it because he's running away from the peace deal that is neither peace nor a deal? Is he trying to change the subject from the fact that everybody thinks he sucks and polls show everybody blames him for the shutdown? No, it is not. It is this. Next week, the Supreme Court is going to hear opening arguments that will decide whether or not he has the power to unilaterally impose unregulated, unlimited, indefinite tariffs on our trading partners. And as they hear those arguments, the Supreme Court is going to have to decide whether they apply the major questions doctrine, which would by default require them to side against Trump. Because in a sentence, the doctrine says that the executive branch cannot assume authority to make decisions that have vast economic or political significance without explicit authorization from Congress. And since the emergency power he's using to claim authority to impose tariffs says nothing about taxes, tariffs, or duties, there is absolutely no logical way that the tariffs he's imposed through this emergency power, which is about 2/3 of his tariffs, could survive the application of the major questions doctrine. But we know the Supreme Court is willing to lie down for Trump. So the question then becomes, will they? That is going to depend on the signals they get from Congress, which is why as Trump again floated the idea of a 2028 term, J.D. Vance actually went to the Senate to try to convince Republican senators to vote against 3 consecutive bills that seek to restrict Trump's tariffs on Brazil, Canada, and the rest of the world. Now, before you say the Senate Republicans would never turn on Trump, remember they already did. They already voted once back in April to cancel his tariffs on Canada. Of course, Mike Johnson wouldn't allow that vote to take place in the House, and Trump would certainly veto it if it got to his desk. While these Senate bills are purely symbolic, symbols like the Republican Senate specifically saying, no, you do not have permission to impose tariffs, would be impossible for the Supreme Court to ignore. Which is why Trump both sent J.D. Vance to speak to senators and also why he floated the 2028 threat. Because when you look at this chart of search trends, you can see that basically no one is searching for Vance 2028. Meaning if Trump wants to force these Republicans in Congress to continue to do his bidding, he has to once again resurface the old threat that if they go against him, they won't be able to ride on his coattails again in the future. And wouldn't you know it, they voted against the Brazilian tariffs this week anyway, because the Republicans in the Senate are starting to realize what Marjorie Taylor Greene already understands. When it comes to election cycles, we already live in a post-Trump world. The faster the rest of us get on board with this reality, faster the Trump agenda becomes thinner than the purple skin on the back of his hand.